Hello and welcome to today's presentation, which is making advertising claims for the new wave of climate change formulations. So it's quite a wordy title, but basically I work for Ayton Global Research and we specialise in consumer research to substantiate advertising claims, which of course goes through a whole range of any advertising claim that you can think of, particularly when we're looking at cosmetics. So I really want to focus on the topic of this year's summit, which is climate change, and really pick out those kinds of claims and talk about how we can substantiate them. So the agenda today, I'm going to talk about global advertising standards, so how they're regulated and things like that. I'm also going to look at some claim trends. So I've selected 3 claim trends, which are to do with climate change. So I can break those down and we can look at methods of how they're substantiated and then basically how we choose the appropriate study design and methodology. And I'm going to share some case studies because it's always easier to sort of break it down in sort of real life kind of evidence there of how we're able to substantiate these claims. So just to introduce myself, I'm the Regulatory Director at Ayton Global Research. So as I mentioned, we conduct consumer research to substantiate claims. I've been working there for about 8 years now. So I started off really managing studies and understanding study design, and really found kind of my passion lies within regulation. So any regulations which affect claims substantiation, mainly advertising regulations, also things to do with cosmetic regulations and any other FMCG industry that we're investigating. And really my passion lies in doing presentations like this and really sharing my experience to make sure that you can really understand how you can substantiate your claims and why as well. So firstly, I just want to cover ad self-regulation. So this is generally the way that the industry regulates adverts. So generally we're looking at either kind of groups of countries or countries that have their own advertising self-regulatory organizations, and they're essentially a platform for complaints. So they're not going around policing adverts. For example, we've got the Advertising Standards Authority in the UK, so they don't necessarily go around and sort of check bottles on shelves and TV ads and say, well, TV ads probably something different, but social media posts go around and check and make sure that all the claims are compliant, because obviously there are thousands of products and brands out there making thousands of claims about their products. So it's basically the way for the industry to regulate itself by having a complaints basis where either your competitors or your consumers complain about your product if they think your ads are misleading and that you don't hold evidence behind your claims, and then they'll investigate it on a case-by-case basis. So basically, when I say the industry regulates itself, it's up to you as one of the 3 parts of the industry that should be involved, whether that is the advertisers who pay for the advertising agencies responsible for its form and content, or the media that carry it. If you're any one of those parts of the industry, you should be looking at the advertising authorities in the country that you're selling your product and checking that your adverts are abiding by their code of conduct. So basically, it's a way to make sure that all adverts are legal, decent, honest and truthful. You're not misleading your consumers, you're not being unfair on your competitors, and everybody's got the same level playing ground when we're making claims about our products. And generally that is about having evidence behind your claims, which is what obviously I specialise in. How do you find out who the advertising authorities are? Well, there's a few different ways and a couple of resources that I like to point people in the direction of. You've got the International Chamber of Commerce, who have a framework that countries can adopt to have their own SRO. That's currently adopted in about 52 countries worldwide. So there's lots of information on there about who those countries are. So if you're not sure about kind of where you fit in, that's what you need to be looking at. There's also ICAS, which is the International Council of Self-Ad Regulation, and they are they basically they have like a council of lots of different countries. They were started up by the European Advertising Standards Alliance, but now they really hold lots of different countries on there as a database, basically all sharing sort of news if they want to do news updates about adverts, and just have a huge database that you can access at any point. So it's a really good starting point, again, if you're not sure. Be really wary about online sales, because obviously it does mean that your adverts are being shown in lots of countries. So you need to be sure that you're globally compliant in the countries that you're selling your product. Be cautious if you are a website, for example, that sells lots of different brands of cosmetics, you should be aware of whether those adverts are compliant. As it says here, the media that carry it, it also is up to you to make sure that if you're selling products on your website, that they have been substantiated. It's not just up to the brand owner. So be really, really cautious. It's something that the responsible person tends to be involved in if you're looking in the EU. So this is something that's come up quite a lot for us, where people have had UK responsible persons and now they need to get one in the EU, and the EU responsible person is sort of questioning whether those claims are substantiated. So there's lots of part of the industry, but essentially to be regulatory compliant, you need to be compliant with the advertising regulations. So there's a really helpful breakdown here that I find really helpful. Whether you're part of the EU, whether you're part of the cosmetics industry, basically the EU cosmetics regulation has broken down the 6 common criteria for cosmetic claims. And I really mean this. I think no matter what industry you're in or what country you're in, it's a really helpful way of breaking down what makes your claim compliant and what you need to be aware of just as you're making the claims in the first place. Before you even think about the substantiation, have these things in mind, because it will really help you ensure that you're going to be compliant. So to break down what they all mean, we've got legal compliance. So obviously your product has to be legally compliant, but you can't use this as a claim either. So you can't put on your packaging complies with the EU cosmetic regulation or make it a huge claim. What it does is it makes it look like your competitors aren't legally compliant. If you make that a main advertising point, it does look like that. I mean, I see it with lots of different with products. I've seen it a lot with things like eyelash growth serum, where they say that it's it's cosmetically tested to make sure that it doesn't have irritations on the eyes. Well, to sell a product like that, you have to have had some kind of ophthalmology, I can never say the word, ophthalmological testing or something like that to make sure that it's safe to put on your eye area or around your, that close to your eyeball. So that's legal compliance, and you're using that against your competitors to say that it's a selling point doesn't look very good on them. So obviously that's a huge point. They have to be truthful. So that's quite straightforward. You can't say your product, for example, contains aloe vera if it doesn't have aloe vera in it, or if it doesn't have enough of the level of the active ingredient to be shown present in the ink list. You need to be truthful. You can't use these selling points. Just always think about it. Don't try and guess away with saying things. Always be really truthful about what's in your product and making that a claim. You need to have evidential support, and obviously that's what I'm going to be talking about a lot today. So obviously every single claim needs substantiating, it needs validating. You can't just make up things if you've got no kind of evidence or body of evidence behind it. So obviously that's what we'll talk about a lot. They need to be honest. So quite simply put, you couldn't say have a consumer study that we do, run it on 30 people, which would be a very small panel size, and then say that you had more consumers than that on the database, because you sort of think, well, if 80% of 30 people agreed with it, I think 80% of 60 people would. You've got to be really honest there about how many people have tested your product. And you need to put it in your advertising as well. So if you have those claims, you need to put some kind of, you usually see a little asterisk or something to say where that evidence has come from. That's being honest and saying what the evidence is that your claim has come from as well. It needs to be fair. So a really good example here is when you're doing comparison testing. So I know I talked earlier about being fair on your competitors, but sometimes you see direct claims and you could say, I don't know, if it's an anti-dandruff shampoo, removes 10 times more flakes than the average dandruff shampoo. You'd have to have some kind of evidence there to make sure that that's fair and it's actually against an anti-dandruff shampoo and not against a shampoo that has no anti-dandruff properties. That's how you make it fair. The consumers need to be able to make an informed decision about using your product. So really putting that all into a kind of a group. They can make an informed decision if you have evidence about it, if you're really honest about it all. It's all making sure they have this informed decision, and be really clear in your wording. We see a lot of really highly scientific claims sometimes, which your consumer doesn't necessarily understand whether it's a good or bad thing. So make sure that they can make a really clear, informed decision. So to break down the actual trends I want to talk about, so like I said, I was going to select some climate change trends. We have them here. So we've got better for the world, anti-pollution, and naturalness. Those are the 3 that I've selected today. Obviously, there are many more, just to give us an overview of what kind of claims we see, what kind of products are out there, and how they can be substantiated. So better for the world is our first trend. So generally what we're talking about here, so consumers are looking for products that are more natural, generally, or green or clean. There's lots of words, buzzwords out there that we'll talk about probably a lot during this summer, and whether, you know, how do you substantiate those claims? But generally that's what consumers are looking for at this time in the world, and also looking for people that are have sustainable principles and consistently showing that and following that. So things like sustainably sourced claims and things about claims being basically green from concept to shelf, I've put. So like a brand being kind of conscious and green conscious, and the actual product and the packaging and everything like that should also be green as well. That's what we're thinking of when we sort of talk about better for the world. So a really good brand that really talks about this a lot and really puts it out there is Lush. So I've kind of selected for this topic the idea of packaging free. So obviously this has come from the Lush website saying it's better naked, reducing the plastic waste with packaging free pampering. So this is the idea, and this is their range of products they have under there. So you can see they've got things about shower products, hair products, face products, body products, makeup products, some information, education about how to store these kinds of products to make sure people are using them, and just some more information generally about it. So that's all on their website. And then I've selected a product for us to look at today as well. So they've got the scrubby body butter. So basically this is how they're kind of advertising it. They talk about having hydrating honey and coconut butter and cocoa butter, and also having coconut shells and almonds in it to have an exfoliation. So we can see they've really kind of focused on the ingredient claims. So what the actual ingredients do, of course, that'd be substantiated at an ingredient level. It's really important to note, something interesting that I learned not long ago actually, is that if you are making an ingredient claim, you have to ensure that the evidence behind the ingredient was tested in the same formulation as the product that you have. So if there was information about cocoa butter, well, maybe it probably wouldn't be cocoa butter is a very good example, but I'll say it anyway, tested in something like a gel, you couldn't then use it in a butter and say that it worked. Obviously, like I said, butter's not a great example because it probably would be tested in that form, but it gives you an idea. So, you know, it might be other kind of examples in terms of the coconut shells. If that was tested in a gel cleanser, but you wanted to use it in this butter form, you wouldn't necessarily be able to use that claim. So be really cautious when you're making ingredient claims as well. At any recommendation, you should always get the final product tested because it shows your consumers can perceive those ingredient claims in their final product as well. I've also put, they've got a review on their website as well about the product. So it's saying it smells heavenly, it's smoothed out the skin, it feels soft as a baby's. Be really cautious with reviews. So this is amazing. You want to use reviews in your advertising, but it's something that I talk about a lot, which is really interesting. Sometimes people that I kind of go to work with, so they didn't make any claims about their products, so they didn't need any claims substantiation. That's all very well and good, but if you're going to use testimonials and reviews in your advertising, that could be seen as a form of advertising as well. So this comes from the Advertising Standards Authority. As I mentioned earlier, that's the UK self-regulatory organisation, but obviously other countries might have information as well. So basically, you cannot make a customer review if you don't have the evidence about it. You can't use a testimonial, if you don't have the evidence behind it to say that the claim is there. To break that down, for example, when we do consumer research, we get testimonials from our clients. But basically, if they say, I know this is the softest my hair has ever felt, but the question within the questionnaire, people didn't agree with that claim, you wouldn't be able to use that testimonial. It has to be in the nature of the overall data. It also says that testimonials and reviews cannot be used as a kind of constitute for substantiation, and that basically anything that is said in a review could be seen as an advert and could therefore come under the code. So you would need some kind of substantiation there as well. So just to put out there to say, be very cautious. I know that people are using a lot of reviews without using substantiation, and it could get you in a lot of trouble. So I want to look at a case study of what we've done as well about this kind of these packaging free claims, these better for the world claims under this kind of bracket. So the product I want to talk about is a body moisturizing bar. It's from a world leader in sustainable manufacturing, and it's now paving the way for clean and non-toxic cosmetics around the globe. So basically for this, we want to just get some consumer feedback about the sustainable product type, with it being no plastic or minimal packaging. We wanted to substantiate the marketing claims that the consumers prefer a cosmetic without packaging, but also that it has the appealing benefits basically of a body moisturizer. So this is the kind of double claim advertising that you can get through consumer research. Does the product perform? Does the efficacy of the product work? This is what we want the consumers to evaluate. But at the same time, you can also say in your advertising, consumers prefer to use a product without packaging. So you get these kind of double kind of sided claims from doing consumer research, the efficacy claims, but also the marketing claims that are very subjective and just about consumers' opinion, but looks really good in marketing. So the kind of protocol for the study, it was conducted in the UK because that was the main market we were looking at. It's a single product investigation. So we're just looking at this product on its own. We're not doing a comparison. We're not looking at it in a regime. It was a 7-day product to just use the product every day. That's quite common for just to see if it makes the skin soft, your general moisturizer claims. So that's the kind of claims we're looking at. So we know we can analyze it in a week. We had to look at female volunteers because, again, that was the target consumer. Again, 18 to 65 years old, because it's a very wide consumer base here. We just want to see how it performs on the skin. But it's really important to have no skin conditions or sensitive skin, because that is how this product has been manufactured. It's been formulated not to necessarily work for those kinds of skin types. So this, I've taken the results straight from our report at the end. So as well as all the overall analysis for every claim, we get this really helpful breakdown table, which basically says how the product actually performed for each claim. So we've got our claim or our question right on the left-hand side. We've got the number of people that said they were satisfied, neutral, or not satisfied, and then the percentage of people that say they're satisfied, neutral, or not satisfied. So the percentage of satisfied is what we really look at, for two reasons. We want to make sure that the overall statistical majority agree with the claim. Usually we set this around 66%, and that's why they've got an asterisk on them, because it means they've met that pass mark or gone over that pass mark. You can set your own internal pass marks. So sometimes we have 70% people who want to advertise on television. But it's really what we look at, to see if the claim's passed, but also because you see this a lot of marketing, we can whip this straight out and put it into our adverts to say 95% of people agreed that a product that does not use plastic packaging is appealing. So we can really take that out and put it straight into marketing. So just to break down the claims that we looked at, so 95% again said that they agreed that the plastic packaging, not using it, is appealing. 93% believe that reducing single-use plastics is important. Like I said, they're really good kind of facts you can put into your advertising. And then we have the efficacy claim. So 79% of people agree that their skin felt nourished, and 84% of people agree that their skin feels soft and smooth. So just really nice, like I said, really generic kind of moisturizing claims, body moisturizer claims that they can then use in their marketing as well. So the next claim I want to talk about is anti-pollution. So basically, there's high levels of pollution in lots of cities and in the world generally right now, and this has a real effect on people's skin. People, report sort of things as allergies, imperfections, pigmentation, dull complexion, skin aging, wrinkles, irritated skin. These are all the kinds of things that we see that can be caused by living in a polluted environment. So interesting, I found this this brand that came up with the word anti-Polluaging, which was essentially saying about people. Well, it says here 93% of people think their skin is sensitive, but actually it could be an effect from the environment around them, which can accelerate skin aging. So they came up with the claim anti-Polluaging, so against both. They've kind of broken down these three products here. So they've got three kind of ingredients that they've basically looked at and concentrated on three different reasons or effects that pollution could have on the skin, and make claims around that. So they've got a serum which is using apricot, which can help with dark spots and damage, UV rays, damage from UV rays. They've got their crystal ice plant serum, which relieves some stress and gives soft and fresh skin. And they've also got the velvet yam, which basically about creating a protective film. So they've done a nice thing here and kind of create a whole range which addresses the effects of pollution on the skin. I've got a case study again about anti-pollution claims. So you can see with consumer research how we might substantiate some of those claims. So this was a defense face wash by one of the European manufacturers we work with. So basically the claims that they're looking to substantiate are anything to do with anti-pollution that obviously a consumer can perceive because it's a consumer test, and about removing pollutants from the skin. So our protocol for this was that the country was going to be India. This was selected, because it's one of the markets that we were looking at for this product, but also because we knew there were areas in India, so as I said, living in urban areas that actually have really high levels of pollution compared to maybe some areas in the rest of the world. So this was really important. So it's a single product investigation again. We're looking at 14 days of use this time, using the product every morning. We had a division here of female and male volunteers because we wanted to make sure we had some feedback from both, but generally the main audience was female, the main consumer. We've got a slightly smaller age range, but still quite wide for 18 to 40 years old. And we're looking at all skin types for this one, including sensitive skin. So again, we've got our results from the report where we have our claims and our percentage of people agree. So these are the kind of claims that we wanted to look at for anti-pollution, which we knew our consumers could perceive. We've got 90% of people saying their skin felt soothed after using it. So as we said earlier, pollution can make people's skin feel stressed. So it's nice if it feels soothed. We're saying that the product reduces impurities, it removes daily pollution, and generally 80% said they rated an improvement in the condition of their skin. So that's a really great claim to say that we've got 80% of people agreeing there's been an improvement. The last claim I want to talk about quickly, because I realize I'm running out of time, is naturalness. So this is where we see claims like free from, claims that support natural development, and certified claims, for example, organic. So the most important thing to talk about is the free from claims when we're talking about regulations. Always consider the 6 common criteria for cosmetic claims, basically. So remember we said earlier about being honest and legally compliant. We can't say claims like it's free from parabens because it makes it look like our competitors are, using parabens which aren't good. Where there's no evidence to substantiate that necessarily, and also it makes it look like it's not legally compliant. It makes it like a dangerous ingredient that would stop the product from being legally compliant. So it can look really bad, basically. So I know the CTPA have released a lot of information on that, and they have a really helpful document there, which I've put in there. But basically, yeah, we don't want to basically create a negative perception of ingredients which could affect our competition, but also just mislead a consumer into believing something that's not necessarily true. So always be very cautious when you're thinking of making free from claims. Organic claims as well is quite an interesting one. So you don't necessarily need to have a certification to say your product's organic. There is an ISO out there on the European market, which has some guidelines as well about how to get that ISO certification to say your product is organic. Be cautious of the EU regulations. So every claim present in a product should be supported by adequate and verifiable evidence. So like I said, you don't necessarily have a certification, but you must have some kind of evidence behind your claim to say it's organic. You can't just say it. There's 3 kind of breakdowns here that I found which are really helpful. So there's organic, which is 90% or more of the product's ingredients are organic. Made with organic, so only a portion of the product's ingredients are organic. I believe this was about 10% have to be for wash-off products and 20% for anything that's sort of left on for more extended periods of time. So that's made with organic. And then you've got natural, which is products containing natural ingredients or derivatives of natural ingredients. So not necessarily organic, but they can be natural. kind of advertising claims you'll see from these kinds of brands. So I just picked out 2 brands that are quite well known for being natural. So you've got Neom Organics and Nils Yard Remedies. So Neom, have got consumer research data there saying that, yes, naturals work. 82% felt that their Day Glow skincare left the skin looking radiant, and 91% of people felt skin was nourished, hydrated and restored. So they've used their percentage claims there. And then Nils Yard haven't necessarily put percentages on there, but they have put their claims. They've got, say, instantly replenishes skin for a natural glow. They've got clinically proven, so obviously I have some clinical data there as well, so it moisturizes skin for 24 hours. They've got that certified organic claim, so as I said earlier, they've gone through that certification process, and obviously how you can use it. So just to summarize, obviously I'm running out of time, but just to summarize, really important to think about claims and validation all the way through your development. So claims are really vital to market your products. You can't sort of think about, I won't really bother having claims. It's a very competitive market, the cosmetics industry. Show off what your product can do. Think about the benefits that it can have and claim it. Get that evidence so you can claim it. Think about it the whole way through the development cycle. When you're making your product, start thinking then about what the claims are. It will make it really, really interesting what you can come up with and what you can get validated. And it will really make your product stand out. Claims must be validated. So you can't say a claim, as I said earlier, without any validation. It goes against pretty much any regulation out there, whether it's a cosmetics regulation or advertising regulation. You must have validation behind your claims. It can happen with consumers, with what we do, consumer research, or it can happen clinically. It depends on the claim. Also, many claims can go either direction. So I work with people where they thought they had to make a clinical claim about the product, and actually we found a way to word it which can be supported by consumer research data. And the reason for this is because consumer research does tend to be faster, cheaper, and more flexible. So always feel free to reach out to me if you've got any claims you want to substantiate. I'm always very honest as well, and I'll let you know if we can't do it and we should recommend a clinical lab. And a lot of times we can work together. So get lots of claims substantiated through consumer research, and maybe pick 1 or 2 really key claims to get done through clinical research as well. There's some information about our company. I won't go through it all too much because I know I really want to have some time for question and answers. So there is my contact information. But yeah, I'd like to open up to questions now.